Sometime on or about February 10th, 2018, I sent an email to George saying that we're thinking about starting a podcast series and would need to explore what it would entail. Joe Rogan's setup would end up costing a couple $1,000, and Robb would be happy if we did 10 or maybe 12 episodes for that couple grand. Episode 001 was March of 2018 and included Robb, AJ, and myself sitting on the end of a small conference table and George sitting on the opposite end manning the board. The very next episode, I think it was the very next day, ended up being TCC's CEO Nick Roach, Perstorp CEO Jan Secker, and myself recording what still stands as one of the most well-articulated and impressive conversations I think we've recorded. Leave it to us to have our second episode ever, the CEO of a large global corporation. Episode 31 was the first one we recorded with our now old booth setup. And 7 episodes later, for March 2020, we recorded our first episode remotely just as the pandemic hit. Since 2018, we've never missed a monthly episode from March of 2018 through today, December 2023, despite travel, COVID, scheduling, and everything else that could impact it. Today, we sit here to record our 100th episode. When we released the first episode, I'd numbered it 001, but I never set out to become a podcast host or to record triple-digit podcast numbers. It just has kind of worked out. It's been fun to do. It keeps us all talking regularly. Nearly every episode tends to start with conversations like, well, there's not really much going on, and we don't really feel like talking. And 45 minutes later, and what always ends up being some pretty good conversation, we realize there's really all things happening in the world that impact business, big or small, good or bad. There's always more going on than we really think that there is. I think the whole podcast speaks to the spirit of who we are at TCC. We're entrepreneurial, reliable, loyal, creative, and personable. We truly want nothing but for everyone in our circle to succeed, from our producing partners to move more pounds of product and to bring new, exciting products to market, for our customers to meet their forecasts, enjoy security of supply throughout all market conditions, and for TCC's long-term employee base to enjoy the growth of the company and play a pivotal role in the daily and annual success of TCC. We don't necessarily want to be known as the podcast company necessarily, but what it does do is to start conversations, whether it be with a prospect or a company who's new to TCC, or one of our dedicated long-term producing partners who wants to get the message out about a new product or trend and to use this platform to do it. And that's what I think we're here for. On behalf of everyone, we thank you for listening, whether this is your first or 100th episode you've streamed. We hope you have gotten some sort of value from these episodes, whether it's hearing our viewpoint on worldwide events, learning about new products coming to market, or just enjoying seeing our faces once a month, which I don't know if that's anyone's case. Maybe Gail, but who knows? Who knows? I have to thank the gang sitting at this table and behind the scenes, including the team who built this awesome new booth, which if, again, if you're streaming and looking at this booth, it's coming together really, really nice. As with many creative aspects, the people behind the scenes don't get enough thanks, so they definitely deserve a big thanks for that. This room, fun fact, was actually the very room once upon a time I had my first interview with TCC. It's evolved 3 times now into the booth you see today, so thanks for letting us take over this conference room and make it what we have today. With that, George, I'm going to have you grab those things if you can. Got you a little something. Thank you. Something to keep on your desk. I know AJ loves having things on his desk, so we're going to...
Oh, wow.
Oh, Benny.
I plan to pull out of these poorly. There's a film on the one side, so you just have to pull the film off.
Oh, that's nice.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Ben.
Of course.
Always so thoughtful. Look at that.
Yeah, so you guys got one. The TLC, the KB guys got one. We got one on the booth here. So just a little something to celebrate getting to 100 episodes, maybe a conversation piece, in your office or desk or whatnot. It's kind of a cool thing. So that obviously it's episode 100. So would like to say, what's up, everybody, and welcome to The View from Jamestown. Welcome to 100. I don't know that I ever thought we'd get to triple digits, but we're here. Good afternoon. I think it's one of maybe our first afternoon episodes in a while.
Yes.
Yeah.
You got nails?
Usually, yes.
Yeah, those things are sneaky.
My nails are...
Well said, Benny. That was very nice. Very
Thank
nice
you.
intro.
That was nice.
Yeah.
Very thoughtful.
Yes. Well said.
Yeah, I've had bullet points and thoughts and notes running for like a month or two now because I've had people say, oh, what are you going to say? And what are you guys going to talk about? And just trying to make it a little different. So I've got, we'll put this up on the screen, but I've got, this is what was the picture from the first ever episode we did.
Okay.
Which is kind of crazy.
Oh, my gosh.
Wow.
I want to go back and listen to that one.
I don't know if you do.
We've all lost weight. It's amazing.
Less gray hair.
yeah, I just put some mics on a conference room table, George on the end of it. Like I had to like lean back to take a picture because we were all sitting so close to each other. And then I pulled up the first email. So it was February 15th, 2018. I think I sent the email that day like, hey, we're gonna make a podcast. And I think George went on Joe Rogan's website and just bought all the stuff that was on there. It was $2,001 is what I have on here. Oh. And I mean, a lot of it we're still using to this day, which I think speaks to, you know, the quality of the stuff we got. So, but yeah, episode 100.
Here we are.
How you guys all doing?
I feel like I'm in a rotisserie oven, actually.
It's a little warm. It's a little warm.
It's a little warm in here.
We got to pre-cool the room.
We got new lights. We've got I'm a chicken right now in the rotisserie. Poor Javier.
I'm dying.
He's the blackened chicken.
How does that translate?
He's got the jerk chicken spice on.
How does that translate to Spanish? Blackened chicken.
I don't know.
Pollo.
Pepper.
Pollo.
I don't know.
Let's keep this clean, actually. So I'm off base here.
Do we have any budget for a freestanding AC unit?
I think so.
Episode 101, potentially.
Little personal. Have Ryan go back, maybe a little hole, personal
right underneath
fans.
the desk, so it's blowing up. Yeah.
Like an airplane.
Like a Marilyn Monroe.
Sorry, Ryan, putting you back to work. It's mid-December. We're all getting ready for holidays. We were just traveling, I guess it was 2 weeks ago, right? The Compounders Conference.
Week before last, yeah.
I think it's, I like that they do it at the end of the year now because it's kind of a good recap of the year and then focus on next year. So some interesting presentations and conversations down there. There were.
I was surprised. Not a lot of, consumers, I'd say, more suppliers and, distributors, things like that. Some with a volume of people there, but there was some good presentations and it was overall, I thought it was great. We had a great time. Yeah. Austin was awesome. Austin, Texas. And, they did a great job and sort of like spread it out. It wasn't all sustainability or one thing. It wasn't one tone. Yep. It was pretty broad. Yep.
Was that the most well attended Compounders conference yet?
At least in the last 6-7 years, definitely. I think so. They talk in the past that they've had more, like Robb said, like actual, we call them processors, like people that are actually using stuff versus just material suppliers. So I think maybe in the past, I don't know if it's been this large, but it's definitely one of the better ones in the last 4 or 5 years for sure. A lot of first time people, which was cool. A lot of focus on like wire and cable seems to be, they have a very positive outlook. There's a lot of people waiting for the infrastructure bill money to kick in. I feel like we heard that 4 or 5 different times when that kicks in next year. So it was interesting. It was very much interesting.
And what do you think they're doing to capture more people? How come there are so many like first timers?
I don't know. It may just be a factor of people getting back to developing new products and looking to, like we had lunches with customers and they're talking about what new products you guys have and we're looking to do this and this and how do we do that. And so maybe it's just more emphasis on that. All I can really chalk it up to.
I heard a lot of people say they were coming to look for innovation, and I don't think there was much of that, honestly. I tried to look for it myself because I've been part of the PVC industry now for all of my career, really, and I didn't see a lot of that. But I want to say it's COVID has faded, and also people are trying to get back to maybe the revenue base that they were enjoying 1.5 years, 2 years ago, and think maybe sending more people there might help with that. But, people right now revenues are way down, profits are down, and they're looking to boost that. And I think that, these types of conferences are great for a lot of that, and that you get to see a lot of people, get to see opportunities. And so if I had to guess, I'd say that's probably why. Yeah. Plus you were the president of...
chairman.
You're the retiring chairman, so it's because of you, Ben.
Outgoing chairman.
It's because of you, Ben. That's why. That's why they were there.
Everyone likes my speeches and watch analogies, I guess.
It was very good.
That's what's driving attendance. But it was good. The conference is great and talking to people is great. I think you get a lot of value just being in the hallways, talking to people too. That's a big part of it. Like all the shows you go to, I feel like you leave shows like that and you get a good feel for, in general, what people are thinking, saying about different stuff. A lot like the Apple and every other show we do, really. You leave and you have a good kind of gut feel on what everyone's thinking. But yeah, a lot of people looking to next year. Obviously it's an election year, keeping an eye on Fed rates and what the Fed's going to do. China seems like it's going to continue to be over exporting in a big way. So it's going to be, I think, interesting. I think people are cautiously optimistic, it seems like, for Q1, but no one really knows.
You're looking at me.
I'm looking at you. Or anybody else. I mean, I don't know what you guys are, if you guys are, seems like we're starting to line some up for January, February.
What's the most recent is that there are 2 major oil companies that will no longer go through the Red Sea because of terrorist attacks. You're also seeing the Panama Canal closure getting worse.
Yep. Not
closure, but you're seeing the delays getting far worse. So oil is propped back up. It's mid 70s all of a sudden. My prediction for next quarter, because I think anything beyond that is not a good prediction, is that we are going to see a decent rebound. I think right now the bull run on the stock market is because Treasury bills are now below 4% as of today. You see a lot of money coming back into the stock market. 58% of American families are now invested in the stock market, whether it's through 401k or in equities and things like that. So a lot of money in stocks, as well as there's no money to be in a bank account.
You said 58%?
58% of Americans are now invested in the stock market. It's very high. And you can see that in the values of these public companies. And I think that we've been in a recession since July of 2021. People want to say that, all the indices or all the indicators aren't there for a recession. Well, we're moving materials, we're selling materials, we're seeing manufacturing. Lululemon and Costco doesn't tell you when there's a recession, especially when retail is propped up by convenience and people are overspending. In my opinion, you see that in credit cards. So we've been in a recession now for a year and a half, and what's happening on the stock market is exuberance of getting through that recession. And going into next year, we should see a rebound in domestic manufacturing. Already, the supply chain issues are reigniting, and we haven't even gotten into real robust demand. You got Europe in the toilet, you got China in the toilet. Europe's going to come back first, and then China's going to follow. And when everybody rises, then you're going to see oil at 100, 120. Maybe not in the first quarter, but this is what I'm seeing right now. So I think you're going to see decent Q1 demand. People are going to restock inventories, resurgence in American manufacturing, resurgence in buying American and what's here, and less Asian import pressure. And because of the Panama Canal, only because of broken supply chains. But people should remember, that these long supply chains, that's what came out of the Vinyl Formulators Conference, was a 10,000-mile supply chain is not sustainable.
Yep.
It's not good for the environment. It's not sustainable for the consumer. It's not sustainable for manufacturing. So American companies have to keep that in mind and not always just buy what's cheapest.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like you're already lining stuff up for January, February, right? Obviously, you probably do more lining stuff up 60, 90 days out than a lot of folks. So it seems like people are maybe optimistic for early part of next year. What do you think?
Yeah, they're optimistic for the most of the 2024. Probably it's going to be a slow start Q1, but Q2 should kick in full force.
Yeah,
that's my gut feeling.
Well, no, Latin America has seasonality.
Seasonality, yeah.
So there's always a second quarter demand more than...
February is slow. There's a lot of carnival and stuff like that, but then it should be picked up Q2.
Yeah, I think the other good thing is like you're getting away from the COVID period now. So now people are going to start comparing it to 2023 versus everyone being down 28% from the COVID period too. So that little comparison, I feel like always.
Yeah, but we still stuff orders on the books for our January arrivals. Nobody wants the stuff in December.
Yep.
They made it clear.
Yep.
So everything after Jan 1st is more than welcome.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're seeing a lot of that.
Yeah.
We've seen order like this absolutely cannot deliver before or after this certain day.
Yeah, and also their vacation. They're very, very, very...
their holidays.
Their holidays, they take it that very serious.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I've seen your work schedule.
Yeah, including mine.
What about you, JJP? What do you think?
I also take my holidays very seriously.
You're on vacation today.
This is a vacation day for me today, but I'm so dedicated to the podcast that here I am.
That's the most American thing I've ever heard. In stark contrast to Latin America, AJ's here on a vacation day.
You doing the 7 fishes?
I don't know if we're doing it this year. It's been a hectic. We don't have much planned at this point. I hope so.
I got some tatag and I got some sea bass. So there's 2.
All right.
In the freezer for you if you need it. So
yeah, I'll circle back to you on that.
I got some smoked bluefish too. There's 3.
Right. There's 3.
I'm helping you out here.
All right.
I don't want. It's a tradition. I want to see you continue.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot. Like I said, a lot's been going on lately, but I'd like to keep it going. I may hit you up for some fish.
Very productive podcast.
Yeah.
We're gonna circle back on that. We want a full debrief.
All right.
Next month.
I'll take pictures.
I was going back and I was just kind of comparing a lot of stuff from this point in 2023 to where it was in 2022. So stock market's up, NASDAQ's up 23%, Dow's up 11%. NASDAQ's up 40%, Dow's up 11%, S&P's up 23%.
This is from December of last year?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. So or year to date. And this being a year that everyone this time last year is projecting recessions and doom and gloom, and it's been kind of an amazing year on that front.
Yeah, I mean that's the AI NASDAQ, that's the AI boost.
Yep.
You're seeing multiples of earnings and things that are dumbfounding. It's ridiculous, but and it's just amazing to see it. And I heard just this morning that Israel's using it in the war. It's just really, really scary. And we talk about it often about how lucky we are to be employed, that that we're still able to do our jobs despite technology. And I definitely pay attention to this. It's a really, really it's going to have broad impacts on a lot of different things, and I encourage people to pay attention to it.
Yeah. I pulled a screenshot of our 2020, January 2023, just to see what the notes were comparatively, which I think was kind of interesting. One of the first things on this is that Nicole was recently a wedding officiant.
That's right.
This time last year.
So Big Al actually called me yesterday and said, "Hey, by the way, do you remember a year ago?" And I was like, I don't know, what was I doing a year ago? She's like, you married me and officiated my wedding. I was like, oh my gosh.
Things that don't feel like that long ago, but were
I know, it's crazy.
Year ago now.
Big Al's her sister.
Oh yeah, Big Al's my sister, not my drug lord. I know. The first time I said it, everyone's like, who's Big Al? But
what else? We had just gotten back from the last Compounders Conference. I think at that point, sustainability was in every single presentation at the time, I remember. And a lot of projections for this year were that the economy will grow, but at a slower rate. So this had 0.5 to 1.5% per quarter. So I think it grew more than people expected to. So I don't know. It's always interesting, I think of what came true and what didn't. Retail shopping was strong despite everyone, at that point, everyone was talking about inflation and when that's going to lead to a recession. Obviously, that never really happened. The Fed was continuing to hike rates. I think they were starting to slow down at that point. But obviously, that was, I think, one of the biggest topics that was kind of right in the middle of the fastest rate hike over the past 18 months. So
yeah, it really stopped in summer. So yeah.
And now we're kind of looking on the other side of it. Now the headlines are when that's going to start to go back down, when the Fed's going to decide to decrease rates.
Yeah.
And that'll, I think, be a massive driver in all of our business.
I think, I mean, not just in our business, but I mean, mergers and acquisitions, you're going to start to see people, I think probably by summer, you might see some rates, discounting. And I mean, that's going to have a very broad impact on things like even buying houses, buying cars, major purchases, credit card rates, credit card interest rates coming down. It's going to have, you're just seeing the confidence right now because they stopped and they anticipate reductions. And when it really starts happening is when, things will really start churning. But we've been the strongest economy in the world, and really we need China and European rebound. And China's done with their increasing of rates. Europe. Europe's done with their rate increase. And you're seeing deflation in China, the actual, opposite of what you see in the United States, which is crazy, amounts of deflation over there. So, so we really need to see those other these other geographies start to rise up and then things will really start popping.
Yeah, the thing I feel like we talked a lot about at the Compounders Conference was India. I feel like somewhere that people haven't really
speaking of popping,
we haven't really talked much
really
about it. It hasn't been as much of a focus as like China and Europe in the past, but everyone talking about, them being both a net purchaser, but also continuing to be very active in the global export markets, as I know you've seen. So
Yeah, they're very active, and they're like, depends on what chemical they're sometimes net importer or net exporter, but they're very active worldwide.
Yeah.
And coming to the U.S., you don't have the tariff coming from India, so they're an advantage over China.
Yeah, very much so.
And their quality is excellent for the most part.
Yep.
Like they've got a lot of pharmaceutical production there, so their quality is widely accepted globally.
Yeah.
The economy's doing so well because they have young people and they have a birth rate that's going to grow, and our birth rate has been crippled, and most most major countries that are developed are crippled in terms of our birth rate. People aren't having children, so there's a lot of eyes on India right now.
Yeah, very much so. Well, as we think about global freight and logistics and moving things around, we have our friends at TLC back for an update, which we haven't had in a few months. So we'll give it over to Joe. Afternoon, Joe.
Good afternoon.
Welcome to episode 100.
Episode 100. You did it.
We did it.
Look at that.
We did it in the brand new set here.
It's beautiful.
Fancy.
It smells new.
It does smell new. It smells like wood, and it's a great setup. You guys did an awesome job.
Yeah, great work, team.
Yeah, very nice. How's everything going? You got the nice Christmas shirt on. You're ready to go.
Feeling festive.
Feeling festive.
Yeah, we're countdown to the holidays is on. Yeah. We're in the trucking industry, putting out fires left and right as the year end comes to a close. But no, we're doing good. We're doing good. Busy.
Yeah, I can see this week and next week being hectic. Everyone wants to get things out of their plants and finished goods shipped, and they don't want the inventory on the last day of the year, and that falls directly on your guys' lap to make it happen.
Absolutely. So. Everybody who says, "Oh no, I'm good," these plans are in place. This is all set up. All of a sudden, this trucker falls off or whatever. So, yep.
And then the week after, the flip side, everyone brought their inventories down. So everybody needs everything now, and now you're delivering stuff.
Everybody who's been off for the past 2 weeks, enjoying the post Thanksgiving, pre-Christmas, stretch, comes back to work and has a ton of emails they got to fulfill orders for. So,
Sure do. Well, I think it's been a month or two since we've had you guys on an episode. How's things been going the last couple months? Has it been a busy end of the year? Has it started to quiet down a little bit? What are you guys seeing largely for the end of this year here?
Yeah, so I think obviously with all of the issues at the port coming through the Suez or Panama Canal, so many canal issues, a couple of years, has been kind of overinflating some of the issues at port, LTL issues as capacity crunch kind of comes towards the holiday season, kind of builds up, almost artificially inflates some of the issues that we're seeing in the truck industry, but. Sure. Rail is still moving pretty consistently. We're noticing cross-border from Texas to Mexico is potentially seeing some issues with some of the immigration overpopulation coming across the border there. But trucking in general has been pretty steady. One of the main things I think that we're seeing, especially in the headlines lately, is kind of just the rectifying of supply to demand. Everybody and their mother was jumping in, trying to make hay while 2021 and early 22 was, a great time to be in trucking. But I think some of that is starting to, justify back down to normal numbers. So
you're saying people jumping into it like non-asset based people
and people who, are just starting to see, these mom and pop shops who, buy up 4, 5, 10 trucks and, see what they can do. Some of those we're starting to see are slimming down and or being gobbled up by some of the bigger carriers as they start to right the ship back towards.
It's interesting because I feel like I remember, definitely pre-COVID, and then as COVID was really ramping up and then everyone's ordering everything, all you heard about was the fact that we need drivers. We'll pay 6 figures for drivers. Like we need bodies and trucks moving things. And then now that pivots a little bit.
Yeah. I think you were seeing some of the owner operators of these trucking companies, if I've got a couple of friends, we can form our own little company and see if we can, compete with some of the bigger guys. And unfortunately the bigger guys have deeper pockets,
right?
And they can kind of, outlast these thinner times, because the great times, as much as we would love them to last forever, that's just not the reality that we live in.
Money always speaks.
It does. It does.
Good or bad.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
Yeah. I think you're going to start to see, especially in 24, more consolidation with some of those bigger companies looking to, see what they can grab up as far as whatever assets are out there. And should be interesting.
Yeah, the consolidation is always interesting too. Like with us on the TCC side, we kind of like seeing some of our competitors get consolidated or get bought or sold or whatnot, because there's less companies out there. Obviously, that makes them larger, which can be good or bad. But obviously, that gives opportunity for some of the smaller folks as well to grow their base of customers. So, and
I think especially at TLC, we have a good mix of both, right? And we've established relationships that are pre-pandemic and in both the smaller and larger carriers. So having a nice relationship with all of those benefits our customers for sure. How's
the rail side of things going?
Good, yeah. So we're starting to see that it's competing, substantially with the trucking side of things. I think there's a big effort in the rail side to get back to that. I think they are massive, and so much of their business is contracted as it is. But I think they're looking to also keep their wheels moving with whatever business they can get. So we've seen some really competitive, aggressive pricing, especially on the intermodal side.
And so obviously we're specific kind of to New England here, so I'm starting to see a little bit of movement on some freight rates and lanes coming in and out of New England, I guess, as we inevitably come to, maybe it'll snow at some point if we're lucky. Yeah,
unfortunately, being in the Northeast corridor, right, we're subject to all the inclement weather, as we even saw today. Truckers coming from down south, this isn't their favorite place to be, but goods have to come up here. So it's just making sure that we can pair the favorable lanes for them to get back home to get the best possible rates for them, that we can.
Yeah, I was thinking about this morning. It was pouring all day and was gusting up to 65 this morning. And obviously that's not nice weather, but up here, just kind of is what it is. We get storms, we get some hurricane offshoots and things like that. But I was talking to some folks in like South Carolina, and I'm like, it's blowing 65 out here. And they're like, wait, what? Like the whole place would shut down, in some other parts of the country if you're not used to things like that. So, we're used to it. Living here, but you see it from the perspective of a truck driver that has to drive 6 hours through this stuff. I wouldn't want to do it either. So you appreciate it at times like these, I guess.
And you can drive through rain, right? Like a little gusty rain. Unfortunately, in January, February, even March, that evil 4-letter word snow starts to become a little bit more prevalent. So they don't necessarily want to, if that's even in the forecast, want to head this way any more than they already do, right? So
and you mentioned the canals and ports and ocean shipping and things like that. Obviously, that's a popular headline these days on what's going on. I feel like a lot of times you have to separate what the headlines are saying versus in practicality what it actually means in the industry, because there can be a lot of headline grabbing and doom and gloom portrayed in some of these to drive ad clicks. But in practicality, are you guys seeing delays? And if so, is it days? Is it weeks? Has it been impacting things? What are you seeing?
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing, especially on the weak side, I think we're seeing, anything coming into through the Panama Canal. We're literally seeing some vessels being turned away. One of our customers was talking about how they used to be able to plan out from the drayage side what container was going to be available which day, and these vessels are bidding on actual times that they can pass through the Panama Canal, and it's pretty cutthroat. It's definitely pretty cutthroat. So I think that eventually, especially since what we saw with Port Long Beach, last year, which is, let's see who can be the first to get to the next port. Right. That'll be the trickle down effect. Who can get to Port Long Beach and see if we can get it, your shipment east via rail or however you can. Savannah, Charleston, all viable options. They're going to start seeing a pretty big influx. So all of a
sudden things like the rail get a lot more interest because now you're looking at intermodal things across the country versus what would have been on a vessel. And it's amazing how it all kind of comes back and commingles. Yeah. Good, bad, or otherwise.
Supply chain.
That's how it works.
Yes.
What are you excited about for next year? What's going on next year? Are you guys starting to think about the early part of next year? What are you guys keeping a close eye on? What's keeping you up at night?
keeping us up at night would just
freight
be
wise.
I think it would just be nice to pair up this demand with nice capacity, right? That's what we're always looking for, great opportunities in that regard. I think it's a presidential election year, so what does that look like? The Fed kind of dictates a lot of the consumer demand. So
Sure.
I think we're trying to make sure that we're ready for if the Fed does lower some rates, that that will drive hopefully some consumer demand, and we'll start to see some 21, 22 activity. It's fingers crossed, right? But that remains to be seen. Obviously, we're going to be traveling a lot more, and with those trade shows and conferences come some new opportunities. So
Sure.
as far as Q1 and Q2 goes, that's some exciting stuff that usually comes out of that. But yeah, I think we're just looking for hopefully, anything that resembles 21, 22 to come back. Not that 23 was terrible. It's just I think a lot of people, it's a thinner year. So
Yeah, I think like on our side, we're seeing, you get back to this whole just-in-time delivery type thing. You got away from it, and buyers were happy to ramp up inventories and not have to worry about leaning so heavy on truck delays and things like that. And then now you go kind of full circle, and people don't want to have inventories in the plant. They want to just buy what they need for that batch, and they want it on a certain day. So that trickles back down to you guys with, if you guys miss the delivery by a day, all of a sudden next time they need something, they're going to shop that around. It really puts the importance on, either on-time deliveries or worst case, communication or whatnot. It goes back to putting a big focus on that. Unfortunately, or if you got great relationships, it could be great.
Yeah, and I think you just hit it on the head. That on-time delivery and the hand to mouth that so much of this past year we've kind of been seeing is the urgency is definitely there. So we lean on our relationships with so many carriers and modes of transportation to make sure that we're providing the most accurate, competitive pricing.
Sure.
And we'll get there exactly when the customer needs it. So.
Well, as always, we appreciate the update. Appreciate having you come on. Glad you're able to make it for episode 100. And
thanks for having me.
We'll have you on for episode 200 here sometime soon.
Here we go.
I'm already planning ahead.
There you go. Nice.
Well, thanks, Joe. Appreciate it. And we'll talk to you soon.
Go Bills.
All right, now's the fun part where you guys make your predictions for this year. Because they're guaranteed to be true. So if you say them on a podcast, it has to be factual, right? That's how it works. So I think some of the just kind of general trends, especially like we were talking about on the TLC segment, seems like customers are largely back to just-in-time production. People don't want inventories. They're only buying the material they need for that specific batch or what they have orders for, which can provide some unique logistics challenges and pricing challenges.
I'm going to take the weatherman approach, and I'm going to say there's a 50% chance that it's going to stay flat for next year.
Yeah. That's a good, it's probably not, I like it.
I think reshoring is going to take a major, it's going to be a major player on our business.
Yeah.
Reshoring, yes.
In terms of our customers or our suppliers?
Both.
Yeah.
Yes. Everything closer to where the end user is.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's going to be big.
I think we've already started to see that too.
Yeah.
I mean,
somehow, but
yeah,
but I think it's going to be a major player on the global economy.
Which I think the writing's on the wall. Like again, we're talking about the infrastructure bills and all the money that's coming in from that. Like that's what the government's driving you to do, and that's where the business is going to be. It seems like.
I asked the same question of one of the economists that was at the vinyl conferences. Why didn't you talk about the influence of the president on the economy, next year? And I think that they're going to do everything they can to prop up the economy because it's the economy, stupid. That's how you get elected. Yep. And so I think there's going to be major manipulation, but I also think that there's going to be some crazy stuff that happens around the world because they don't want to see Biden necessarily reelected. So I'm looking at I agree with the reshoring. I'm looking at a good, strong first quarter, strong second quarter. But as I said earlier, I kind of already made my prediction. I think you're going to see oil go bonkers, and you're going to see some political upheaval, a lot of it. And I think that's going to have an impact on some things. But I think overall the economy will do okay so long as things stay sane. And I mean, we've been in some insane times, guys, for the last few years. Yeah. I never thought in my lifetime I'd been through half of what I've been through. So I hope it's not true, but there's so many elections worldwide next year. There's like Indonesia, there's Russia. You know,
there's been a bunch of Latin American ones.
There's a
recently.
bunch.
this year has been
There's
a bunch.
more elections next year than I think in history. So it's gonna be wild. It's gonna be wild. That's what I predict. I'm gonna take the weatherman and say there's gonna be some wild weather next year.
Hey, at least you can't be wrong, right? I mean, the weather. There's always something that
Yeah, I mean, as far as chemical prices, I think you're going to see the first half of the year some strengthening, but not over the top.
And you talk about things being crazy in the last couple of years. That's all I've ever known. That's all Nicole's ever known.
I know.
You guys
I know,
are-
that's why it's so hard to
you
get.
had a lot of it's 2008ish, but like pre-COVID sort of time where things were quote unquote normal. But that's all that we know.
Yep.
I
I was gonna
just
say.
figure it's hectic all the time.
Yeah.
There's always some big
2000
catastrophe.
to 2009, I never saw a price change. Really.
Really?
Oh yeah, it was
my goodness.
flat.
Wow.
It was just as soon as like in 2009 you started seeing, the recession and then things dip and then the $120 a barrel oil. I didn't believe in price increases existence until then. So it was just, and I think we're going to be in a period like that for a while, So, but yeah, I mean, it was a long period of time before you saw any price changes.
Yeah.
Ever since then, it's been all over the place. But
Yeah, I feel like it's never a dull moment. Is kind of what the
you
last
guys have
couple-
experienced that. You young folks have had wild times.
The world we're living in, I guess.
Yeah.
I think we talked a little bit about it last time, but obviously consolidation, I think, will continue being a big trend, whether it's our customers buying each other, suppliers buying each other, companies getting rid of staff in lieu of using distributors or technology, whatever the case might be. We've seen a lot of that, obviously, at the end of this year as companies try to cut salaries and things like that to improve their balance sheets for their year end. So I think we've seen a lot of that, again, in the time, Nicole and I have been in the industry. There's obviously, you always talk about that being a big thing with consolidation and M&A and all that. So especially if rates start trickling back down again in terms of companies buying other companies who maybe had a subpar year or something like that, you may see some of that next year.
Agreed,
Or
for sure.
continue to, I guess.
It'll tick up, if the rates come down, it'll definitely tick up.
We talked about being an election year, obviously, we've already seen the impacts of the infrastructure bills and money coming in and what the Fed's doing and things like that. The China tariffs, I'm sure, will be a hot topic at the debates and things like that. Speaking of which, they're still, I guess, in place. The exemptions are still in place as far as you know, right, for December 31st?
They're set to expire on December 31st. Yeah. So in theory, they'd come back
On the first.
Yeah, the 25% would come back to the list of exemptions.
And that hasn't changed as far as you.
We haven't heard any news on that as of yet.
It'll be an interesting one. We'll see.
Yep.
As we always talk about. I think the other big thing is travel for next year. I mean, I think the day after Thanksgiving was the busiest TSA day on record, which is crazy. Obviously, things like the Compounders Conference are well attended. We're already starting to talk about things like AFPM and the coding show, and I think good turnouts are expected for all those. Even from companies in Europe or abroad that maybe have been limiting travel this year. We're starting to see. I think a lot of those folks will show up. So it'll be a busy, especially first half of the year with travel. Seems like companies are really getting back into it.
Yeah, as AJ says, nothing replaces person-to-person sales, getting out there and seeing your customers. So that's what we try to do.
Yep.
Whether the up or down, sideways economy, we're in the business of providing solutions for people, help to understand what they need and help them with what problems they have. So you got to get out there and see people to do that.
Yes, you do.
Travel's not the easiest right now, though.
Yeah.
It's not, just this morning I saw that Southwest Airlines got a $120 million fine, I think, for last couple of days after Christmas last year when they melted down,
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, they got a huge fine for that. So, but, it's improved since that. And they said they fixed their problems, but we don't really do Southwest anymore. We're American or Delta or whatever, but Southwest is just,
And Nicole just got rid of her Southwest credit card.
I was big on Southwest for a while, actually, until I came to TCC, and then it was American,
They
really.
were awesome for a while, they really were. And I don't know what happened. So
They went downhill
yeah, for
very
sure.
much. But you know what? Breeze is.
JetBlue is cool.
Breeze.
I was.
That's like a swear word.
I've heard good things about Spirit.
So no, hear me out. So Breeze, right? Private
Did you see
PVD
the
is a
guy that got on the
hub.
Spirit plane the other day with a parachute on?
Oh, really?
He wore a full-on parachute.
But no, I mean, there's some airlines that are up and coming. You know, I think for a while, Southwest. But I agree, Javi, JetBlue.
JetBlue's great.
I think, yeah, they're
I wish they go more places that actually travel to.
from PVD because they're
From
really,
everywhere.
Well,
JFK is their big hub.
They got some decent ones out of Boston.
Yeah,
but
they have
still-
decent ones
Yeah.
out of
Yeah.
Boston.
Who wants to go to Boston?
Yeah,
though? I mean,
no.
Jesus. But that's the way. I mean, just traveling last week. I mean, the cost of the airfare and the cost of the food. That's where the inflation has not crept out yet.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like we had some dinners with 6-7 people in Austin, and they were nice places. They weren't like top of the line, but they were nice. $800+. You know, like unbelievable. You know,
And these places are packed. Like we've made reservations
Packed.
weeks before to make sure you get a spot.
Yeah.
Like, airports were packed.
people are spending money, man. Wow. So entertainment, yeah, that should remain strong. And even at the vinyl conference, they were saying that was like, what do they call it? Itch. It was like the post-pandemic. You know, we're not going to save our money anymore. We're going to spend it and enjoy life until we go. And that's continuing. I forgot what the acronym for itch was, but it was like you got the itch to get out and do things. And you know, you were in New York this week, and I mean,
Packed.
bonkers, right? I mean, shh.
The whole city was packed. Restaurants were packed. The trains were packed. I mean, people are out spending money on
One
stuff.
good thing that came out of COVID was a zest for life, I guess. You know, I mean, there's, you know, people are starting to realize that you don't live forever, so you better.
I think you can see the writing on the wall for that to change. Like if interest rates start coming back down again, all of a sudden people maybe go back to looking at new houses, look to renovations on things, and you know, going back to spending money on stuff that was driving a lot of the COVID business. People might look to upgrade a car that they haven't done in a couple of years, things like that. So
Right.
as rates come down to somewhat normal levels, you got to assume you see more and more of that too.
Super interesting to see the electric car fad fade. That
Yeah.
we saw the hard numbers on that. It was like, it was down like 40% or something like it. It was ridiculous.
The craziest stat I think was the percentage of people that buy an electric car and then their very next car goes back to internal combustion engine or just like a normal gas burning car.
Yeah.
You think once you switch to electric, that's the greatest thing in the world, and that's what you're going to keep doing, and that's not the case.
Yeah. Heavy rate of change right back to
Yeah.
a gas or a diesel engine. I mean, so yeah, I mean, it makes sense if you live in the city and you're only going a little ways, or you know, we live in a big country. You know, 200 miles doesn't get you all that far.
Yeah, and all the states want to ban them in 2030 or 2035. It's
Yeah, well, why don't they fix the roads before they fix the bridge up in Providence before you start worrying about, you know, what we're driving, please.
Yeah.
They're getting ahead of themselves on a lot of things.
Yep.
Well, I think that sort of wraps up a lot of what we had. Any other final questions, thoughts, concerns? End of the year.
Just congratulations, Benny, on 100. This is
Well,
amazing. I
Triple
mean, it's
digits.
triple
Yeah.
digits.
This is
is
your baby.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, like I didn't set out to, you know, do 100 episodes or have, you know, it was never really a goal. We just did it, and if it stopped working, we'd stop doing it. But you know, I think it's been a lot of fun. I think got a lot of positive reception from it, from people that listen and supply partners that want to come on and use it, and our freight companies that want to come and talk about it.
Absolutely.
And if it has informed anybody or helped anybody make any kind of decision along the way, I think that makes it worth it right there. And you know, hopefully, is driving the attention that we want to.
Yeah, let us know if you like this, right? I mean, people do when we see them in person, you know. But
Yeah,
you know,
we get a lot of recognition when we go. Yeah, the podcast. I'm like, yeah.
he's
He's
so humble, Javi.
Yeah, that's me.
What's up?
It always surprises me because you're right. Like we put the podcast out and people aren't immediately like, "Oh man, I saw the episode. That thing you said was great." Like that doesn't really happen. But then you go places and you see people, and it gets mentioned more than we think it does. I think that, you know,
It
I
does.
watched XYZ or I shared it to people. Same thing with the View, like with the email. You know, it
Yeah.
goes out and nobody replies. We're like, "Wow, great job," except from like, you know, Barbara Baker, I think, still replies, and
Yeah.
you know, it's
Some
like,
former employees.
yeah, exactly. Like, "Oh wow, these looks great. Thanks for keeping me included." But then you go and talk to people like, "Oh yeah, I still get it. I share it I share it internally to these people," and it's always cool seeing the reception that it gets.
There's a
So
long history on all of this, but no, I also just want to wish you guys a Merry Christmas. We're all sort of breaking up from here, you know, because we are close to Christmas and a big thanks to all you, because it's not, we all keep our personal struggles behind a closed door when we're on this podcast. And I know some of you are having personal struggles, and wish you a Merry Christmas nevertheless. And keep things, keep your family close, keep your friends close. And thanks to everybody that watches. I mean, it's a blessing that we have people that actually watch us, and customers and suppliers. And, Merry Christmas to all of you. And thank you for everything. This company, we couldn't exist. We couldn't do this podcast without our producing partners, our customers, and all the people that support this podcast, but especially the chemical company and the logistics company. So Merry Christmas, and thank you to all of them.
Yeah, we had a great Christmas party last half of last week, and I think we'll put some pictures up of that. And we had a family we sponsored that we made a big donation of gifts and clothes and things like that too.
We got it all, didn't we?
Yeah, it was
great.
It was really, really good. It came together really, really nice.
And then Michaela welcomed another baby boy. There's been a lot of good stuff that's happened
a lot of
this
great
year,
stuff, and we're going into 2024 with an open heart, and we're gonna embrace it no matter what comes. We can make a lot of predictions, but going in with love and an open heart is what's key, and we're doing that.
Didn't Michaela have the baby the day after her maternity, the last day in the office?
Oh, she had a C-section though.
Yeah.
She had
but that was still 9 months in. Let's not.
It was on the calendar. I mean, she could have. Kerry broke her water in the office. I mean, it could have happened. But,
dedication.
That was my first experience with that. But it can happen. And then we broke the curse, or haven't broke it yet, but we'll soon. I don't know if it's a curse or not, but we had 19 straight baby boys for everybody that worked in this company, including the 4 of us, except for Benny, who has no kids yet. But we all had sons while working here, 19 in a row. And we've got Josh Savory, whose wife is pregnant right now at the logistics company, and she's supposedly got a girl in there. So we'll have to see. So
we'll believe it when.
Yeah. Well, then we went right back to the boy, right, with Michaela. So
right back to a boy. So is that 20? Is that 20?
Oh, that might have been 20.
Specific to TCC, wow. I mean, it's technically it's still going.
Still going for TCC.
Yeah,
still
right,
going.
We'll have to put up a graphic of what are the chances of that.
It's amazing.
Yep.
But no, I couldn't have said it better, so we'll leave it with that. Merry Christmas to everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Feliz Navidad.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Safe travels, and see you in the new year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Material contained on this podcast is provided by the chemical company solely for informational purposes. The information is not guaranteed to be correct, complete, or up to date. The information in the podcast is intended solely as a general education aid. TCC is providing this podcast as a public service, but it is neither a legal interpretation nor a statement of TCC policy. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by TCC. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. Views and opinions expressed by TCC employees are those of the employees and do not necessarily reflect the view of TCC or any of its officials. All statements, comments, and opinions presented are made in the context of robust dialogue and freedom of expression. TCC assumes no responsibility for any consequence relating directly or indirectly to any action or inaction taken based on the information in this podcast. While TCC strives to keep the information in the podcast accurate, complete, and up to date, we cannot guarantee and will not be responsible for any damage or loss related to the accuracy, completeness, or timeliness of the information. TCC assumes no liability for any errors or omissions in the content of this podcast. The information contained on the podcast is provided entirely on an as-is basis with no guarantees of completeness, accuracy, usefulness, or timeliness. Thank you for streaming the View from Jamestown podcast edition.
Like and subscribe for more.